At dinner? My son Michael declared loudly. You're a failure, but Mom's new husband isn't. I stayed silent, but the words cut deep. A week later, Michael found himself without a vehicle, without funds, and without a place to stay. That very evening, my ex-wife called in a frenzy, and what she revealed shifted everything entirely. Before we proceed, please subscribe to the channel and share where you're tuning in from in the comments. At the family dinner table in our comfortable Kansas City home, the scent of pot roast lingered in the air, blending with the cooling mashed potatoes on our plates. It was a usual spring evening in Missouri, the type where windows were slightly open to welcome the fresh breeze from the nearby Missouri River. Michael, my 32-year-old son, sat opposite me, his fork jabbing at the leftover food with unnecessary vigor. Emily, my 26-year-old daughter, was to my right, her kind smile attempting to maintain harmony as ever. We had been discussing mundane topics, like jobs, the weather, and the blooming dogwoods in the backyard. Suddenly, Michael slammed his fork down, the noise resounding like a sharp crack in the peaceful room. You're a failure, Dad, he announced boldly, his words cutting through the atmosphere like a blade. But Mom's new husband, Robert, isn't. He's got everything sorted out. Major deals, luxury vehicles, the whole package. I might start referring to him as Dad from now on. The statement lingered, weighty and piercing. I felt a shock in my chest, as if the wind had been knocked out of me. My hand clenched around my water glass, the moisture slippery beneath my fingers. But I held my tongue. For the moment, Emily gasped, her hand covering her mouth, her eyes widening in disbelief. The family picture on the wall behind Michael drew my attention. A worn photo from 12 years earlier, all of us grinning at a backyard cookout, before the divorce shattered our world. How could he utter that after all I had sacrificed? Michael, that's unjust, Emily retorted firmly, her voice composed yet tinged with pain. She leaned in, her chair squeaking faintly. Dad has supported us our entire lives. He's the one who created this family, not an outsider. You're being harsh. Michael scoffed, shoving his plate away so forcefully it almost slipped off the table. Harsh? Come on, sis. Look at him. Still toiling and building at 64, barely getting by? Robert's a true achiever. He understands success. Dad, he's just ordinary. He rose quickly, his chair grating against the wooden floor, the sound irritating my senses. I remained seated, frozen in shock, my thoughts racing back to a time years ago. It was shortly after the divorce, when Sarah left me for what she deemed a superior existence. Michael was 22 then, just out of university and struggling. I had presented him with the keys to a brand new Ford Focus, nothing extravagant but dependable, to help him begin. This is yours, son, I had said proudly, but he had scrunched his face and grumbled. Thanks, I suppose, but Robert has a BMW. That hurt had dimmed over the years, buried beneath the routine of aiding him, covering his rent, handling his expenses as he pursued one ill-conceived plan after another, and now this. Michael, sit back down, I finally uttered, my voice low and controlled, though my jaw tightened painfully. We're family. We don't speak that way. He let out a bitter laugh that failed to touch his eyes. Family, sure. You've been dragging me down. Dad, Robert gets it. He's providing genuine guidance. Real chances. You're outdated. With that, he snatched his coat from the chair back and stormed to the door, his steps thumping heavily on the floor. Emily reached over the table, grasping my hand. Ignore him, Dad. He's mistaken. You're the finest father possible. He's just envious or something. Her words soothed slightly, but the injury was raw. She stood as well, embracing me briefly, her arms comforting and warm. "I'll speak with him soon, love you." Then she departed after him, the front door closing with a click, leaving the house in an unsettling quiet. I lingered at the table, gazing at the cluttered dishes, the partially eaten meals, the wrinkled napkins, the roast now thickening in its gravy. My thoughts churned, assembling the treachery. How had we reached this point? Michael, residing rent-free in the home I had purchased for him, driving the car I had kept running, all while aligning with Robert, that smooth 57-year-old entrepreneur who had entered after the divorce. Robert, with his custom suits and arrogant smirk, always murmuring to Sarah about elevating the family. But me, I had been the one laying foundations in the Missouri heat, constructing not only buildings but a future for my children. The photo on the wall taunted me now, a memento of joyful days. The kitchen clock ticked gently, each moment heightening the void. I did not rise to tidy the table, did not even stand. Instead, I allowed the rage to brew, examining it in my mind like a rock. Sensing it hone into determination on waiting night, I recalled every overtime shift, every foregone trip to pay his debts, every instance he had flung Robert's name at me. It was sufficient. If Michael wished to label me a failure, he would discover life devoid of my backing. It was time to establish boundaries. The evening air in the backyard was refreshing, bearing the subtle fragrance of flowering dogwoods from the neighbor's yard. I abandoned the table untouched, the dining room lights still illuminating, projecting a gentle light through the sliding glass door. Taking a beer from the refrigerator, the chilled bottle perspiring in my grasp. I ventured outside, the wooden deck groaning under my weight. The stars shone brightly over Kansas City, sparkling like strewn gems against the dark sky. I opened the cap with a pleasing hiss, the foam overflowing a bit, and took a lengthy drink, permitting the bitterness to align with the one growing within me. Pacing the yard, the grass moist from a prior spring rain. I could not dispel Michael's words. They reverberated in my head, each echo stoking a flame I had long suppressed. Sitting on the aged patio chair I had constructed myself years before, its paint flaked from seasonal wear, I gazed at those stars, my thoughts drifting backward. It seemed they were extracting memories from me, one after another. I remembered the day I acquired that home from Michael, 6 years following the divorce. He was 26, hopping between employment, always with justifications. "Dad, I require stability to stand on my own," he had pleaded over the phone. So, I did what any parent would, withdrawing from my reserves to make the initial payment on a simple 3-bedroom in a serene suburb nearby. The loan was under my name. Naturally. His credit was ruined. "This is your opportunity, son," I told him, as we stood in the vacant living room, the new paint aroma potent in the air. He had smiled, patted my back, but soon the payments originated solely from my account. "Just this time, Dad," evolved into "just until I secure something substantial." And Robert had been hovering in the shadows even then, escorting Sarah on extravagant vacations while I covered the costs for our children. Another sip of beer, the cool fluid anchoring me as resentment surged. Flashback to last holiday season. Michael, opening the envelope I had given him, containing a check for his vehicle fixes. "Thanks, but Robert's discussing investing in my concepts," he had said dismissively, tucking it away. Robert's concepts. Always Robert's. That man had ingratiated himself into my former family's favor, portraying himself as the savior, while I was the base they relied upon. But that night, beneath those stars, Something solidified. I would not overlook this. Equity had guided me all these years, laboring extra in the building sites, the dirt coating my shoes, all to provide them what I lacked. Michael's avarice, his contempt for my kindness. It was time he experienced life without it. I crushed the empty can in my fist, the aluminum crumpling with a crisp sound, and placed it on the railing. The initial light of dawn hinted at the eastern sky, shifting it from black to a gentle gray. My gaze hardened as I observed it advance, resolve enveloping me like the morning mist. As the first sunlight rays broke through the horizon, I awoke early, my body energized by the determination that had firmed overnight. The backyard stars had vanished, but their sharpness remained in my mind like a guide directing my actions. I skipped breakfast, snatching only my keys from the hook near the door, the metal cool on my skin, climbing into my old truck. The engine roared to life with a known rumble, piercing the serene Kansas City morning. Dew clung to the windshields of parked cars along the suburban roads as I drove toward Michael's area, the one I had selected for its security and closeness years ago. The air was crisp, infused with the smell of damp grass, but my concentration was keen. No doubts, just execution. Pulling up to the curb outside his house, I noticed the Ford Focus shining in the driveway, its hood still glossy from the recent cleaning I had financed. The house appeared occupied, but unkempt, curtains closed against the morning brightness. I stepped out, my boots crunching on the gravel walkway, and knocked decisively on the door. 3 firm raps that mirrored my resolve. Inside, I heard movement, then the lock disengaging. Michael opened the door, his hair messy, eyes hazy from what seemed a late night. He wore wrinkled sleepwear, far from the assured man who had thrown barbs at dinner. "Dad, what brings you here so early?" he muttered, rubbing his face, astonishment blending with annoyance in his tone. I wasted no time, standing resolute on the porch. "I'm here for the car keys. Michael, give them to me." He blinked, then chuckled, a strained, unbelieving laugh that grated like rough paper. "What, no? That's my car. You gifted it to me." "Gifted it to you," I echoed, my voice steady, though a memory struck as I glanced at the Focus. It was the day I had surprised him with it, driving into our former driveway with the new vehicle, a ribbon on the hood like in advertisements. He had been 24 unemployed after leaving junior college. "This will help you start, son," I had said, beaming. But he had shrugged, remarking, "It's fine, I guess. Robert has something more impressive in mind for me someday." That offhand rejection had pained me, but I had dismissed it, funding insurance each month since, now, under the morning sun. That recollection strengthened my purpose. "It's registered under my name." I proceeded, pulling out the folded document from my pocket, the paper fresh. "I've covered every expense, every maintenance. It's mine, and I'm reclaiming it." Michael's expression hardened, his posture changing as he clutched the doorframe. "You can't just appear and seize it. That's stealing." I moved closer, my eyes level with his. "No, son, retaining it without consent. That's stealing. Hand over the keys, or I'll contact the authorities right now. Let them resolve it." He wavered, his gaze shifting to the car, then back to me. A neighbor across the street halted while tending her plants, looking our way curiously, the hose dripping water onto the pavement. The strain mounted, birds chirping in the trees contrasting the confrontation. At last, with a whispered oath, Michael vanished inside. Returning with the keys swinging from his hand, he pushed them at me, his fingers shaking a little. "Fine, take it. But this is despicable. Dad, Truly despicable. Robert's correct about you. You're just resentful. I accepted the keys without reply, feeling their heft, a minor triumph in my hand. Sliding into the driver's seat, the upholstery familiar beneath me. I ignited the engine. It hummed smoothly, courtesy of the service I had paid for last month. Michael stood on the porch, seething, arms folded as I reversed out. In the rearview mirror, he diminished, but the fury in his eyes persisted, driving away. The streets of Kansas City unfolding ahead, past the emerging oaks and tranquil residences. I sensed a rush of drive. The dashboard clock advanced, and my focus turned to the subsequent action. Downtown was close, and the bank would open shortly. This was merely the start. The journey to downtown Kansas City followed known paths, the Missouri River shimmering to my left under the climbing sun. I parked the Ford in the bank's lot, the pavement still chilled from the night, and retrieved my folder of papers from the glove compartment. Statements, titles, all neatly arranged. Entering through the glass doors, they swung open with a gentle swish, mirroring the clear spring sky. Inside, the lobby was subdued, the tile floor echoing my boot steps as I neared the teller's station. A young woman in a tidy shirt looked up, her screen displaying the bank's emblem. "Good morning, sir. How may I assist you today?" she inquired, her manner professional and impartial. I placed my identification and the loan documents on the counter, arranging them carefully. "I need to halt the automatic transfers on this account. It's for a property I own, but the living setup has altered." She nodded, inputting on her keyboard, the taps rhythmic. As she examined the information, my mind briefly revisited the day I had signed those forms. Michael had been there, lounging in the realtor's office, scrolling his phone while I marked page after page. "Thanks, Dad. This spot is ideal," he had said casually, not even glancing up. I had handled the down payment from my extra work savings, the construction grime still on my skin from long shifts. Sarah had departed by then, with Robert, but I had aimed to give Michael a solid foundation. Now, as the teller sought verification, that memory reinforced the need for this move. "Everything is in order," she stated after a pause, printing a sheet. "Sign here to cease the transfers. We'll inform the occupant by mail, but it could take several days." I signed with a strong mark, the pen moving fluidly. "That's acceptable. Thank you." As I collected my documents, my phone vibrated in my pocket, a persistent buzz that interrupted the lobby's tranquility. I moved to a secluded corner near a potted fern with shiny leaves, and answered. It was Michael, his voice erupting through the line before I could speak. "Dad, what in the world? The bank just contacted. Said payments are ending. You're kicking me out. This is my home." I maintained an even tone, holding the phone firmer, the material warm against my ear. "It's my home, Michael. My name on the title. My funds sustaining it. You were never formally a renter. Just a guest I permitted, with every cost on me. You've had years to rise up." His breathing was labored, the anger turning to urgency. "You can't do this. Where will I live? This is vicious. You're destroying my life over one remark." "One remark," I repeated, pausing as a bystander in the lobby glanced over, catching the elevated voice. "It's years of receiving, son. Years of me constructing while you depend on Robert. Time to stand independently." He implored now, his words rushing out desperately. "Wait, Dad, let's discuss. I didn't intend it. Robert's been assisting. But please don't proceed." I ended the call, the disconnection final, but his plea resonated in my thoughts. Sliding the phone back, I felt another message vibrate, probably from him again, or perhaps another he had involved. As I exited the bank doors, the sunlight struck me directly, and I pondered who he would approach next. Back at home, the familiar groan of the front door welcomed me as I entered, the bank's documents still under my arm like protection. The drive from downtown had been smooth, the Ford navigating easily on the curving roads by the river. But Michael's frantic voice from the call echoed in my ears, a persistent reminder. I placed the keys on the kitchen counter, the metal tinkling against the stone, and poured a cup of coffee from the brewer I had set earlier. Steam curled lazily, carrying the robust scent that steadied me amid the turmoil. As I sat in the living room armchair, sunlight streaming through the partially closed blinds in golden beams, my phone buzzed once more, a text alert illuminating the screen. It was from Emily, her message appearing with a soft tone. "Dad, Michael just phoned me in a panic, said you're severing him entirely. What's happening?" I drank the coffee, the warmth spreading, and replied swiftly, keeping it concise. "Just retrieving what's mine. He'll manage." But before I could place the phone down, it rang. "Emily's name displaying," I answered, reclining in the chair, the material worn from years of service. "Hey, dear," I said, my voice stable. "Dad, explain," she responded, her tone filled with worry, words pouring out rapidly that showed her concern. "Michael's raving about the car and the house. He said he's turning to Robert for aid, that Robert's already mentioning dealing with you, something about giving you a lesson. Are you all right?" Her words landed like a new surge, but I kept my hold loose on the mug, absorbing the details. Robert. Always Robert. That 57-year-old manipulator in a suit, operating from the background. I walked to the window, looking out at the calm street where children biked in the spring warmth, their giggles faint. "I'm okay, Emily. Michael's just reacting. Tell me more. What did he say about Robert?" She hesitated, her breath clear over the line. "He mentioned Robert proposing to handle the loan briefly, but only if Michael severs ties with you fully. And Robert chuckled about it, said you've been too lenient for too long. Michael's accepting it. Dad, he's furious but needy." I nodded inwardly, the elements aligning. Of course, Michael would rush to him, the man who had slipped into our lives right after the divorce. My mind flashed back as I stared at a faded picture on the shelf. One of us all at a July 4th picnic before everything broke. It was a year after Sarah left. Robert had appeared at Michael's birthday meal uninvited, with costly presents, a watch that eclipsed the tool set I had offered. "Your dad's excellent at erecting structures," Robert had said with a wink. "But I'm here to erect destinies." Michael had glowed while I swallowed the slight, sending extra funds the next month for his education. That routine, my labor dismissed, Robert's flair welcomed, had repeated in my inbox transfers I had made, ignored appreciations accumulating. "Emily, thanks for the alert," I said, my voice strengthening. "Robert's playing tactics, but I'm not retreating. This is about justice." "I understand, Dad. Just be cautious." Michael seemed earnest. We talked a bit longer, her backing a silent support before disconnecting. I scrolled through past messages from Michael, timestamps showing months of cash pleas, no gratitude notes. The disloyalty deepened, but so did my insight. Pacing the room now, the floor creaking underfoot. I reviewed some emails on my computer. Patterns of Robert's sway appearing. Subtle criticisms in family chats I had been omitted from. A distant neighbor's door slam resounded, evoking closed chances from the past. The coalitions were forming against me quicker than expected. And as I set the phone aside, My thoughts shifted to reinforcing my stance, plans emerging unprompted. The phone shook again, almost instantly. Pulling me from the whirl of thoughts, I looked at the screen, Sarah's name, my ex-wife, flashing persistently. The living room seemed suddenly confined, the steam from my cooling coffee vanishing into the air like dissolving dreams. I answered, standing by the window where the neighborhood's peace mocked the inner tempest. "William, what are you doing?" Sarah's voice exploded through, agitated and blaming, each word rising higher than the previous. "Michael is distraught," she continued. "He says you seized his car and halted the house payments. Have you gone mad?" I drew a breath, clutching the windowsill, the wood smooth under my touch. "Hello to you as well, Sarah. I haven't gone anywhere. I reclaimed what's rightfully mine. The car I purchased, the house I funded. Michael has had ample time to advance," she stammered, the connection crackling with her feelings. "But he's your son. You can't evict him like this. Robert and I are extremely concerned. He's discussing involving attorneys if you don't correct this." Robert again, manipulating through her. I circled the room slowly, passing the photo on the shelf, my strides measured to oppose her haste. A memory emerged mid-step. Right after the divorce documents, when Sarah had relocated with him, I had continued the support, extra for Michael's dental work, trips I couldn't attend. "Robert has grand plans for the kids," she had said once during a custody discussion, her voice cheerful. I had issued another check, building quietly while they flaunted success. Now her alarm exposed the flaws. "Attorneys," I replied, my tone balanced, infused with quiet resolve. "Let him attempt. Everything's under my name. Sarah, this isn't about malice. It's about esteem. I've erected everything Michael relies on." She paused, then adjusted, her words turning to entreaty. "William, please, for the sake of old memories, Michael needs steadiness. Robert says you're being irrational. He's prepared to assist, but only if you withdraw." I halted, pacing, jaw clenching as the daylight faded slightly behind assembling clouds. Robert's assistance always includes dominance. Inform them both I'm finished being the unseen supplier. Michael learns now, or he continues depending eternally. Her voice broke, desperation seeping in. "You don't comprehend. He's vowing to exclude you totally. We're family. William, repair this before it's irreversible." The call concluded with her disconnecting first, the quiet echoing louder than her statements. I placed the phone down, retrieving a notebook from the drawer, the pages fresh as I turned to a blank one. Concepts flooded. Consultations. Countermeasures. My pen poised, prepared to outline the way ahead. With the notebook still open on the passenger seat, its pages covered in hurried notes from the intense call with Sarah, I started the truck's engine, the known growl slicing through the calm afternoon in Kansas City. The spring sun positioned low, throwing long shadows across the dashboard as I exited the driveway. Scrolling through my phone's contacts at a downtown stoplight, my thumb stopping on the attorney's number. An old contact from past building agreements that soured years ago. No room for delay. The oppositions against me were strengthening, and I required defenses. The light changed to green, and I sped toward his office on the town's outskirts. The river's shine visible in the mirror, a queue of steady flows beneath the exterior. Arriving at the simple brick structure, I parked and went in. The reception area smelled of fresh coffee from a brewing pot in the corner. The assistant directed me through, and soon I was shaking hands with David, the attorney, his clasp strong across a desk littered with folders. "William, what's the issue?" he asked, leaning back in his squeaky chair, eyes keen behind thin glasses. I outlined the basics. The vehicle recovery, the loan stop, the emerging threats from Michael and Robert, keeping my voice even, hands opening the notebook to main points. I need to understand my safeguards. Assets are in my name, but they're mentioning lawyers and Robert's enterprise. Any weaknesses there? David examined the titles I had brought, his pen tapping steadily. Wise to consult now. The house and car, solid? Your possession is evident. But if they press for emotional harm or improper sway, we'll rebut with proof of your aid. He stopped, turning pages. Regarding Robert, public documents indicate his firms had some tax issues. Nothing severe, but advantage if he intensifies. I'll prepare stop letters just in case. We delved further, his inquiries probing like a base inspection. Any joint accounts? Shared projects? I shook my head, but a memory arose as I waited for him to copy files. The day Robert first encountered Michael at a family gathering post-divorce, offering a business card with a polished grin. Stay with me, kid. Your dad's skilled with tools, but I construct dynasties. I had overheard, swallowing dignity while issuing another check for Michael's housing. Now David's counsel turned that into tactic. Apply for complete title shift on the house. It'll compel their response. Leaving with a folder of initial drafts, the corridor echoes matching my lone steps. I felt strengthened, the burden shifting. But one visit wasn't sufficient. I drove directly to the accountant's office across town, the truck's wheels humming over known bumps, parking in the shaded lot under growing maples. I entered the plain space, overhead lights humming. Laura, the accountant, greeted me with a nod, her desk a field of charts. William, it's been a while. Tell me about these connections. I spread the financial reports, indicating transfers and loans. Severing support to my son, but Robert is hovering. Review for gaps. Shared anything I overlooked. She adjusted her spectacles, keys clicking as she accessed digital files. Your accounts are clear. No shared with Michael, but Robert's company. I've noted filings, some anomalies in deductions. If you're considering audit signals, the IRS appreciates tips on that. Her tone was factual, but inquiring. Why now family conflict? Respect overdue? I answered, noting her ideas. Lock secondary credits, nameless reporting paths. As she printed overviews, my mind recalled a winter long ago, transferring money for Michael's unsuccessful venture, while Robert advised remotely. Collecting fees I had indirectly sponsored, Laura's observations transformed that grudge into utility. Protect your pension funds first, then, if they litigate, counter for repayment of donations. By the time I departed, the sun lower, my folder heavier with marked documents. Strategies unified. Heading home along the river path, mental list running. First executions tomorrow. The truck's interior filled with intent. But as I turned into the driveway, a fresh alert sounded on my phone, suggesting the storm's nearness. At my desk that evening, the folder from the sessions lay open under the lamp's warm light, papers fluttering as I organized them into stacks. Legal on left, financial on right. The house was silent, afternoon shadows extending across the wooden floors. But my attention was precise. I accessed the online system first, fingers darting over the keys to start the title transfer on Michael's house, verifying addresses against the titles. The cursor lingered over submit. A short pause as fulfillment grew. Click, and it was complete. Confirmation message arriving like a commencing signal. Next, the registered mail. Envelope secured with notices of asset locks. Stamps attached with intentional presses. I addressed one to Michael, another to Robert, via his business. The ink flowing consistently. As the printer churned copies, a flashback intruded. Robert's conceited arrival at Sarah's remarriage celebration, toasting to fresh starts, while Michael absorbed his every word, my silent inputs forgotten in the bubbly cheer. That propelled the next move, accessing the IRS anonymous line, entering details Laura had highlighted. Dubious deductions, dates from public records, submit once more, the screen's light reflecting my unwavering stare. Pacing to the window while waiting for email confirmations, I observed the neighborhood settling, children summoned for supper, lights turning on like vigilant gazes. Back at the desk, I checked inboxes, subtle indicators appearing. An unread note from the bank affirming holds, a shipment tracker for the mail, tension built in the weights. But each step raised the barrier higher. Then, as I sealed the final envelope, my phone illuminated with an incoming alert from Michael, his name flashing urgently, the vibration shaking the desk. The computer's notification rang sharply in the quiet room, interrupting the evening stillness like an unwanted visitor. I leaned forward, the cursor flashing impatiently on the screen as I opened the email from Robert. Subject line in bold capitals. "Stop your meddling at once." His words flooded in a stream of legal terms and anger, threats of suits for harassment, assertions I had exceeded on assets that belonged to the family he had appropriated. My coffee cup sat nearby, a light mark staining the paper below it, a minor flaw amid the growing tempest. Before I could craft a response, my phone rang. "Robert's number showing," I answered, setting it on speaker, the device quivering slightly on the desk. "William, you old idiot!" Robert's voice thundered, smooth with that executive sheen now fractured by fury. "What do you believe you're accomplishing? Locking accounts and interfering in my affairs. You think I don't realize you're causing this mess with Michael? You'll rue involving my enterprise in your trivial vendetta." I stood, walking to the window where street lamps flickered on in the Kansas City twilight. "Trivial, I've recovered what's mine. Robert, years of my effort financing your hidden realm. Threaten as you like. My attorney is prepared," he laughed, a rough bark that irritated. "Your attorney. Please, I have groups that devour types like you for morning meal. Retreat, or I'll overwhelm you in legal fees. Michael doesn't merit this. You're demolishing him from envy." Envy. The term sparked a recall. The initial time Robert hosted a family grill at his expansive residence years after the divorce, Michael chuckling at his humor while disregarding my call about an employment opportunity I had set up. I had built the connections. He had taken the passages. Demolishing, I'm instructing. Robert, something you never achieved, true accountability. The call intensified, his warnings accumulating, restraining mandates, counterclaims until I interrupted his tirade. "Reserve it for the court." Click. The silence resounded, but it didn't endure. Heavy knocks pounded at the front door, vibrating through the house like storm. I proceeded to the entry, looking through the viewer. Michael, unkempt, hair disarrayed, eyes burning under the porch illumination. Opening the door slightly, chain still secured, I confronted him. "Michael, not a suitable moment." He pressed against the door, the wood straining. "Let me enter. Dad, this has escalated too much. You took my car, my house, and now Robert's mentioning audits. You're wrecking everything." I unfastened, stepping back as he rushed in, his breath heavy with exasperation. The living room lamp cast shadows across his flushed face, emphasizing the dark circles under his eyes. "Wrecking, you've wrecked yourself, son. Depending on me while naming Robert father. Time to rise." He pointed a finger at me, voice climbing in uneven spikes. "You don't grasp it. Robert's aiding. Providing a spot, advances. You're just bitter because Mom selected superior. Admit it." "Bitter?" Another resonance of that grill where Sarah had murmured to me. "Robert's beneficial for us. William, proceed." I had proceeded by funding Michael's existence from distance. Now, in the charged air between us, I stood firm. Selected superior, I selected you. Every salary, every forfeit, Robert's aid is command. Depart from it or confront the outcomes alone. Michael paced, bumping a photo frame askew, the old family image tilting. Outcomes. I'm without shelter because of you. Correct this, or I'll participate in Robert's litigation. We'll claim everything. The deadlock peaked, his yells rebounding off walls. My replies, calm prods. Litigate freely. Truth's with me. Eventually. He stormed out, slamming the door so forcefully the frame shook. I watched from the window as he entered what must have been Robert's borrowed vehicle, tires squealing as he drove away. The night calmed, but the atmosphere hummed with unresolved matters, repercussions simmering just out of view. As the rear lights disappeared into the darkness, a delivery vehicle arrived the next morning, its engine humming while the driver emerged with a pile of mail. I stepped onto the porch, the spring sun warming the crisp envelopes he delivered, official stamps gleaming like symbols of advancement. Back inside, I opened one at the kitchen table, foreclosure alerts spilling out. Michael's house entering processes, eviction schedule stark in black print. Driving by the property later that day, the Ford's engine running steadily. I slowed near the curb. Moving vans idled in the driveway, workers carrying boxes under an overcast sky, Michael guiding them with drooped shoulders. The once tidy lawn displayed neglect, weeds emerging through fissures like the fissures in his pretense. I didn't halt, just watched from afar, a quiet contentment settling as the truth struck him. My phone vibrated mid-drive. Michael again. I pulled over near the riverbank, water gently lapping the shore, and answered. "Dad, please!" His voice faltered, a distant cry from last night's wrath, laced with pure desperation. The eviction alert arrived. I'm packing all. No place to go. Robert's home is short-term, but assist me. Just this time. I gripped the wheel, the material worn under my fingers. A memory surfaced. Michael as a child. Perhaps 12, holding my hand after a storm cut power, relying on me to mend the world. I had connected the generator, created the safety. Now that child was hidden under years of privilege. This time, it's been a lifetime of times. Son, learn from this. Construct your own. He negotiated, words flowing in a frantic current. I'll apologize. Sever Robert. Anything. Don't let me wind up homeless. The appeal pulled, but I maintained the boundary. Apologies don't reconstruct respect. Rise, Michael, contact when you're prepared to. I disconnected, the river's current mirroring the unavoidable draw of outcomes. Consulting my attorney via a rapid message update. He verified. Process is progressing. Michael's efforts to delay failing. Later, storing the alerts in my desk drawer, the papers murmuring as they settled. My thoughts broadened to Robert's vulnerable sides, his business reviews impending, hints of anomalies rising. The web was constricting, stages unfolding beyond Michael. With the documents from Michael's eviction orderly filed, their edges still keen like unsettled borders in my mind, I took my folder and headed to a serene cafe downtown in Kansas City. The spring air held a trace of rain as I parked, the truck's door clicking shut behind me. Inside, vapor rose from a fresh coffee on the corner table, mixing with the gentle hum of customers turning papers. I sipped gradually, the heat steadying me as I called my attorney. David. The phone against my ear amid the clatter of mugs. William, developments. David's voice came clear and set. I've got the summaries Laura noted. Robert's tax inconsistencies. Those dubious subtractions from last year's submissions, I said, opening the folder, pages rustling softly. Time to engage. Nameless tip to the IRS or via Roots. He paused, documents shifting on his side. Both. I'll manage the official grievance through my links. Such compliance matters can prompt audits swiftly. Send the bundle. We'll dispatch it registered today. I nodded to myself, scribbling notes on a napkin, the pen moving steadily. As I reviewed the damning overview, some inflated costs, dubious offshore ties, a memory arose. Robert's haughty cheer at a holiday assembly years back, glass elevated high. "To forging legacies," he had said, winking at Michael while I lingered in the rear. My building-roughened hands concealed in pockets after sending funds for their excursion. He had intruded then, posing as the dreamer. Now I had revealed the cracks in his base. Disconnecting. I emailed the scans from my phone, the progress bar filling systematically. Outside. The cafe's window framed the active street. Vehicles buzzing by like the mechanisms turning in my scheme. Later that afternoon, observing from home, I noted the initial waves. A local commerce news segment on my laptop citing rumors of probes into Robert's company, clients withdrawing amid talks of penalties approaching. Robert evaded my test call, voicemail activating after 2 rings, his typical polished message now curt. A voicemail from him came that evening, his tone elusive, edged with pressure. "William, whatever your scheme, halt. We can discuss. Resolve this discreetly." I didn't reply, instead verifying databases for additional advantage, the screen's glow lighting my firm resolve. His rushed reorganization tries appeared in public logs, asset moves, but belated. Sanctions were accumulating, his realm unsteady. The quiet from his side lengthened, a partial success humming in the silent house as I placed the phone down, driving home under the waning light, the river sparkling beside the road. My thoughts strayed to possible regrets, the burden of equity settling like twilight. A cautious knock resounded through the house that evening, drawing me from the kitchen where dusk fell softly, casting extended shadows across the surfaces. I approached the door, looking out. Michael stood on the porch, his stance bowed, a reluctant figure against the evening light. Opening it, the cool air surged in, carrying the aroma of coming rain. "Michael," I said evenly, moving aside. "Come in." He entered gradually, hands in pockets, eyes lowered. The living room lamp activated as I turned it on, warming the area with a soft radiance. He lingered near the shelf, glancing at the old family photo before speaking, his voice subdued and stumbling, each word heavy with regret. After a restless night at Robert's, encircled by his stark opulence, Michael had confronted the reality. Robert's assistance included conditions, his vows hollow compared to the years of my silent forfeits. The impact of the eviction notice had finally pierced his arrogance. "Dad, I erred greatly. The eviction, staying at Robert's, it's all struck me. I took everything as given, called you a failure while surviving on your labor. I'm sorry. Genuinely." I leaned against the wall, arms crossed, allowing the confession to linger. A flashback flickered. Michael as a youth, beaming after I built his play fort, our shared chuckles under summer heavens. Delights Robert could never assert, now that purity was seasoned by maturity. "Words are a beginning, son, but deeds, you've relied on supports too long." He nodded, extracting a small envelope from his coat. A handwritten note, edges creased carefully. "I know. No more freebies. I've got a work interview tomorrow. Hands-on labor like you began with. Robert's withdrawing too after the business strikes. I see now he was exploiting me to target you. The door opened again, Emily arriving without notice, her key turning gently. She stepped in, sensing the instant, her presence a bolstering foundation. "Dad!" Michael messaged me. All good." Michael turned, voice cracking a bit with openness. "Sis, I'm admitting. Dad's correct. I need to forge my own path." We sat then around the table. A simple meal of wraps I had made, plates arranged with intentional care. Emily nodded supportively, her words tender. "It's a move, Michael. Dad's always been equitable." I pardoned him there. A solid handshake sealing it. No emotion, just limits. Your family. But aid concludes here. Merit it. Robert remained quiet. No outreach indicating clear in his non-existence. As Michael departed, vowing change, Emily embraced me. "Proud of you, Dad." Later, filing old documents in the drawer, their rustle a symbolic end, I stepped to the backyard, staring at the stars sparkling above, toasting inwardly to fresh starts. If you enjoyed this heartfelt tale of family, forgiveness, and growth, we would love to hear from you. Please like this video to show your support. Subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories that touch the soul. Share your impressions in the comments below. What moved you most about William's journey or Michael's awakening? Drop your thoughts and let us connect through your words. Feel free to ask questions too, perhaps about the characters' futures, or how such lessons apply in real life. We will exchange ideas, dive deeper, and interact together as a community. For the next captivating story, simply click the box on the left. Thank you so much for watching, and we look forward to your voices in the conversation.